Okay. Hi everyone. I would like to welcome you to our journal club, which we try to repeat every month or twice per month. And today we discuss one of the super interesting topic. Can we use psychedelic as a treatment for substance use disorder? And I would like to encourage you to participate in our discussion and to be open and ask us even if you think that is stupid question. We totally okay with any questions, and my personal point of view that there are no stupid questions. So please feel free to ask anything. Probably we can answer, and it's help us to understand more this topic. So also, if you have any suggestions or comments, we also send you a survey after this journal club. So please complete it. Okay, so next slide, please.
Там видно вообще что-то?
Видно, но не перещелкивается. Okay, I will continue with couple housekeeping notes. So first of all, please keep your microphone muted, but if it's possible to put your video on, please do this, because it makes us feel that we are around real people who are interested in this topic, and it's also, I think, make you more comfortable to ask questions if you're on video and you see us, we see you. And also, this video recording, probably you can see recording sign on your laptop or cell phones. Please let us know if you have questions during the presentation, so you can easily to interrupt our presenter. Today is Olga, and ask your question. So it's okay. But also we have Q&A section after the presentation, so you can also write your questions, and we return to them at the end of this presentation. So up to you. Okay. So next slide. У меня ничего не двигается.
Двигается?
Нет. Okay. So let's get started. So Ольga Белова, our medical student, presents one of the very interesting paper today. So Olga, your turn.
Hello, I'm glad to welcome everyone on our online journal club. Our today's article is exploring ayahuasca-assisted therapy for addiction, a qualitative analysis of preliminary findings among an indigenous community in Canada. I wanted to say why I choose this article, because I'm interested in addiction treatments, especially psychedelics, especially ayahuasca. So at first, it is necessary to say that Gerald Thomas led a small observational study assessing the effectiveness of ayahuasca-assisted therapy for addiction. And this article is a qualitative analysis, and it was published in Drug and Alcohol Journal in 2019. So its impact factor is 2.78. A problem. There are two main truths. Do you see slides?
We see slides, but we don't see next slide. So you can probably just, yeah. You probably just need to put your mouse on the next.
So there are two main truths: that substance abuse is a massive public health problem, and that conventional addiction treatments have limited efficacy. About current treatment options in United States, There are behavioral treatments and pharmacotherapy treatments. Behavioral treatments help to participate actively in recovery from substance abuse. There are such treatments as cognitive behavioral therapy, contingency management, motivational enhancement, and 12-step facilitation therapy. As for pharmacotherapy, I have highlighted in yellow therapies which are available in Russia, thus others are not available in Russia. Methadone, buprenorphine, and naltrexone are available for people with opioid use disorder. Nicotine preparators, for example, patches, gum, lozenges, and nasal spray, and the medications varenicline, bupropion, are available for people with tobacco use disorder. And disulfiram, acamprosate, and naltrexone are available for treating alcohol disorder. So, what is ayahuasca? Ayahuasca is a psychedelic, a psychotropic brew prepared from the Amazonian vine by Nestoropsis caapi and leaves of the bush Psychotria viridis. These plants contain hormonal alkaloids and dimethyltryptamine, DMT. And the next slide shows biochemistry of ayahuasca. There are structural formulas of harmine, harmaline, tetrahydramine, which are beta-carboline alkaloids, and DMT, which is monoamine oxidase inhibitor. And it is necessary to say that DMT is structurally similar to 5-hydroxytryptamine, serotonin. So it acts like serotonin agonist. And DMT is not active in gut when orally ingested, but DMT is active in the presence of monoamine oxidase inhibitor, beta-carboline alkaloids. And DMT plus beta-carboline alkaloids induce several hours of dreamlike altered state of consciousness, which includes effects such as effects occurs in prefrontal cortex, and this prefrontal cortex involved in mood, cognition, and perception. So, study objective is to explore the impact of ayahuasca-assisted therapy on addiction and other substance use-related outcomes, and to elucidate the lived experience of participants. The design of the study is a qualitative semi-structured interview study. Retreats took place in the band's long house that was blessed and prepared in Coast Salish tradition. About participants. Participants had substance use disorders, including tobacco, alcohol, pharmaceutical painkillers, and crack cocaine. It was indicated by ASSIT, alcohol smoking and substance involvement screening test, but it's not unclear if this test was like inclusion criteria. But there were such inclusion criteria, such as ability to communicate in English, be over the age of 18, no past experience with ayahuasca, no current use of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and no current or recent experience of psychosis. And it is necessary to say that all participants were indigenous members of the same Coast Salish band, and most were residents of a small isolated community of approximately 10,000 people. The retreats took place over 4 days and included 2 ayahuasca ceremonies guided by a Shipibo master ayahuasquero and 3 non-indigenous Canadian ayahuasqueros. Participants adhered to a diet that adhered to traditional Shipibo practices, refraining from meat, sugar, alcohol, salt, and strong seasonings. About every day of retreats. On the first day of the retreat, participants were greeted by healers and their research team, who explained the process that was about to take place over the next few days. On the second day, the retreat team conducted group talk therapy sessions, breathing, meditation, that were led by a Canadian physician to elicit the reflection and to elicit insights about traumatic life experiences, which all persons had in their life. From 9 p.m. till 3 a.m., small glasses of ayahuasca were offered to participants, and traditional chants known as ikaras were sung in Shipibo, Quechua, or Spanish by ayahuasqueros. But it is necessary to say that concentration of DMT is unknown. Then, participants slept in the longhouse after the ceremony, and on the third day, they had opportunities to share their experiences in both unstructured dialogues and more formal debriefings with the retreat team. And on the first day, there was a final debrief on the morning of the retreat. All participants left this retreat before noon. About methods. To share their experiences in their own words, a qualitative analysis was added to the project. And this qualitative interview was led 6 months after retreat and included 3 questions. First, did the retreat have any impact on your life? All said yes. The second, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being extremely negative and 10 being extremely positive, how would you rank the impact of the retreat on your life? And the third, please describe how the experience impacted your life, for example, substance use, personal relationships, sense of self, and connection with nature or spirit. And then these interviews were conducted either in person or by phone and recorded with a digital voice recorder. Interviews were transcribed and semantic analysis was performed to describe these patterns. Results. As I said, there were 12 participants, but 11 adults participated in qualitative interviews because 1 participant rejected drinking ayahuasca on the second night. All participants responded that the retreat had an impact on their lives, as I said, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 8 participants ranked their experience at 8 or higher, and mean ranking was 7.95. Some of the participants experienced nausea and vomiting during the ceremonies, which are expected effects of drinking the brew. One of the central themes in the interviews was the role that the retreats had in facilitating connection with spirit and nature. Some participants expressed that their connection with spirituality was renewed following by ayahuasca therapy. As one 30-year-old male explains, I had no sense of spirituality before really coming clean and sober, even while I was going through, like AA and NA. They tell you to reach your higher power or whatever. I thought that was a bunch of bull, but after the retreats, I have really opened up to spirituality big time. I smudge every night before bed. I pray. I say thanks to whatever is out there, you know? The interviews revealed that the retreats facilitated significant changes in emotional and psychological states that helped to alter negative thoughts patterns and gain these insights into the psychological barriers to heal. As one 22-year-old female said, it is actually helping me to do my psychological work. It made me look at myself and see how I react to the world and how I can shift in the way that I actually truly desire, which is unconditional love. So ayahuasca has helped me the whole retreat to eliminate those barriers so I can keep on healing and go forward and accomplish what I want to. So participants described gaining a greater sense of self-acceptance, and then these retreats generated a cathartic emotional release, and it resolved conflicts within themselves and others. Alongside the positive changes that occurred on an individual level, such as emotional openness and self-acceptance, participants expressed that they reconnected with family, with friends, and found that the retreats had a beneficial influence on their relationships. As 30-year-old male described, since doing the ceremonies, I'm more open to caring for other people. I think I have more love and respect for the people in my life, more gratitude. One of the most profound themes was that these retreats led to considerable reductions in substance use. Some participants reported that they completely stopped using all drugs, and everyone said that the retreats had a positive impact on their substance use. For example, some of them explained that the retreats allowed them to see trauma that was hidden by their substance use. As 34-year-old male said, it put my substance use in my face, and I just faced the problems that I was having keeping me in my abuse. I just kept living it over and over again until I finally faced it, and I just feel that there was closure. I don't use anymore. I don't use anything. I don't smoke or anything. And 19-year-old female participant summarized, I felt free of my addiction. I stopped completely. I had no desire to use. So it is very powerful, I think. But it is necessary to say that other people described visceral rejection not to use any substances anymore. When asked about how the retreats compared with other treatments, many said that their experiences with other approaches were unsuccessful and often left them with unresolved mental or emotional issues. In comparison with retreats, retreats were reported to be more effective, and retreats allowed them to have a much deeper experience that helped to heal some emotional issues underlying the addiction, which were not addressed by the other types of treatments. As a 55-year-old male explained, other treatments sort of like scraped the surface, as they say. This one got me deep into myself, which I have never admitted to or confronted, I guess you could say, in other treatments. And 90-year-old female said, I'm on methadone and that did not work. After that, I had no desire. I don't know what it is about that, but it is really very life-changing. And also important to say that one participant highlighted the intercultural aspect of ayahuasca and that this indigenous plant could be integrated across indigenous communities. About overall reactions. Overall reactions to the retreats were very positive. Participants expressed deep gratitude for having opportunity to take a part in this retreat. In the words of 22-year-old female, I think it is a good medicine because it can shift energy and help people clear up some things so they can continue on their journey. Because we are so unaware about if we are holding things in or not, I highly advise it to be used. It is a nice stepping stone to another level. But there were also negative aspects of treatment, such as nausea and vomiting. And as for group sessions, there were disadvantages and advantages. One participant described that the retreat led to new friendships with other participants and that he trusted and understood all challenges which were faced by people in their community. While most reflections about the retreat relate positive experiences, one participant mentioned that it could have been more positive if he drank ayahuasca with different people, because he thought some people influenced him negative. And as suggested by the narratives, ayahuasca-assisted therapy within the context of a therapeutic retreat may facilitate recovery from addiction by enhancing one's relationship with self, with others, with nature, spirit. About limitations.
Okay, Olga, I think there are time for probably our community also join this discussion, and before we go to limitation which you think are limitations, let anyone to share their and ask, like, what do you think, like, if you have chance to read the articles or while you're listening this actually short presentation, which is good, what do you think the most problematic in this paper, in this research? So today we talk about very actually unique design of research. It's qualitative. We never talk about this before, and just for probably basic knowledge is one of the methods which used mainly in social science when we don't collect some numbers like which we usually do, and there are no statistics like basic statistics, but it's also systematic analysis, but systematic analysis not of numbers but words, and because we during qualitative study we do qualitative semi-structured interviews when we have kind of very specified questions to our participant, and it's not just like let me talk about your experience. It's also very well prepared usually, and when we analyze it, it's also have some structure. So it's a lot of approaches how to do this, and so I'm personally very trustful to this method, and but it's not the topic of this discussion. And I think one of the concerns is probably design, how we can trust that people just say us. But maybe you can notice any other thoughts, like any other limitations of the study which is not related to design, but related to the probably also kind of to design, like for example, about population or about intervention which he is retrieved, or about outcomes or anything, like what do you think important?
Oh, if,
Sophia?
I have some questions to this research. Firstly, an amount of members, but maybe it's okay for start for research of this type of medicine. And the second and maybe mainly question is that ayahuasca therapy, is it if it has only some chemical influence, just like serotonin agonist and DMT antagonist, or as it was stated that trying and treating with ayahuasca is tradition, is not just taking like a pill or like I don't know, some spray or syrup. It's just a tradition in some house, as I remember, and so and some songs and some special person for it, and maybe it has a lot part of cognitive behavioral therapy, not just chemical influence. And how can we maybe for this for this disruption, maybe I don't know, we have to try the same method for people that are not indigenous Canadians, that don't know and don't maybe even don't believe in this, and it will be like 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 a try to decrease a placebo effect for this. And so yes, maybe this is the main question.
Yeah, Olga, would you like to?
Yes, it is very interesting and important to say about it, because I think that ayahuasca had and chemical and behavioral influence, because as you know, DMT with monoamine oxidase inhibitor acts like it is psychedelic, and it acts to prefrontal cortex. But indigenous people felt a connect with nature and spirit, and I think it influenced them. That influenced them.
May I add something? Olga, may I add something to your point? Okay. Okay. I think that Olga said that it's, I just had a couple comments on this. I think so Sophia asked a couple questions actually, which related to intervention and to population. So first of all, it's about intervention, like how we can distinguish this intervention, how we distinguish chemical influence of the actually psychoactive substance, which is DMT, with other cognitive behavior intervention, which is like songs and discussion which participants have on during this 4 days retreat. And it's totally like in this particular situation, we see that intervention is not perfect, is not kind of like gold standard of clinical trial when we have only one treatment and we have in comparison the other treatment of placebo to see the effect. And actually it wasn't the question of this study. It was kind of preliminary, very preliminary study which trying to understand how actually people like feel about this kind of unique ritual, which is part of the culture of particular these people, and that's why they choose this population of ethnic. So, and the ethnicity, one of the factors which really probably can explain why we have these results. So, for example, if you and me go into this retreat, so probably we're just thinking about what are you doing, and it's not really like it just like stinks and so like it's crazy, and people will stop doing this, right? And it's very important to thinking about that. What is the factor of ethnicity in these rituals, and what is the effect of? Is it really important to be this person from this society, or it can be applicable for any population? And this is the one of the questions of generalization of our results, right? So how we can generalize the results which we got from this small population to others. And also talking about ethnicity, it's very important to thinking about why these people actually develop substance use disorder, because we know usually those who ethnic minority, so they feel kind of separated from other population, and they also kind of lose their roots, and this is like they live in modern life, and they don't really feel that this is the place in this is like modern life for them, because they have different culture, different language, different values, different everything. So, and we couldn't just say this is not important, because like cultural factor is very important for people life, and also for substance use. And I just want you to thinking about, is this population can be seen as vulnerable population for substance use, and if for example they start to use substance because they lose their roots with their like spirits, with their culture, so probably this ritual can bring them to this culture again, and they can use it as a like it's logical to think about, okay, like this is probably one of the effective way to be connected with their culture as well. But yeah, it's totally makes sense that we don't have like clinical trial of ayahuasca here.
Yes.
And we don't control a lot of things which happen there. And for example, one person just reject to drink second drink. So okay, they don't analyze it, but why he actually rejected? And in this kind of like very like, it's just 11 people was there, but still they have kind of different perceptions and different ways during this retreat, so different experience of this retreat, and they're not taken into account. So yeah, but thank
And
you.
I have one more question about it's more statistical maybe, about points of I don't remember, 7.5 that they pointing effect of this ayahuasca therapy from 1 to 10, 8 of 11 entertainment, they said more than 8, but the average is 7.5. So other 3, they put very low mark, or no?
Yeah, it's in that mostly it was like 7 and 8, so that's why. So one of them like probably choose 10, and like but majority 7 or 8, so that's why.
Just because I didn't find in article never bad bad thoughts about it, and it's strange. Maybe, I think.
Yeah, I think here they just want to show us that mostly like, so they have like visual analog scale from 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
And people choose And usually like 5 is meaning that I don't know, like it's not negative, not positive. So mostly, so because they don't probably have like negative experience, so they chose like more than 5. And so because it also was not extremely positive, so probably, and usually people not really tend to choose extreme numbers.
Yeah.
So, and here what we can how we can interpret these like 8 mean on this scale, that usually people, like most of them, like, have normal experience, like not there are not negative experience, even they have some adverse effects, which we see nausea and vomiting, but it's also not so great. So yeah. And I think it's also kind of important results here, that people like all of them have no negative experience. They don't say that they don't repeat it again.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's kind of how this tolerable for them. I mean, like not tolerance of the substance, but like how they tolerable to this retreat. So, and it was okay.
Okay.
But still, it's again like when we talk about like sample size, and any using any scales in this sample size is kind of questionable, because we know like for any statistics we need at least like 30 people in the group, and when we analyze like 11, and it's also question, is the person like which wasn't drink second drink, is he also in this taken into this account or not?
I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, I think they just trying to say that it's nothing too bad. Yeah, thank you, great questions. I also want to like talking about intervention and about like how we can distinguish this like chemical effect, physiological effect with psychological effect of other behavior interventions. I think that it's also important to thinking about future studies, when probably we can thinking about how we can, is it important to go to retreat to have this treatment option, or it's actually possible to do some pharmaceutical, like I don't know, tablet or
Yes.
something which we can control actually, because there are no any information about what is exactly, as Olga said before, what is the concentration of DMT, and is it any like dose response effect. We don't really know, is it actually DMT there, or is just like placebo? And who cook this brew, and how they control it, because usually when we do something, like when we try to understand the effect of treatment, we need to know like exactly what we give to people, what is the dosage of this, and we of course we should have like quality control of this intervention, and to be sure that everyone have the same treatment. And okay, here probably everyone have the same, but again, we don't know, probably in this brew like it's also depend, like if you take the first sip, it's probably like have less GMT than like what's left like at the bottom of I don't know, of any like cup. So it's still, I think this is a lot of question about the what exactly they give people when they talk about ayahuasca assisted therapy, and they explain like how they what they do in these 4 days, but it's not really, for me it's again like this is question like what they talk about on their discussions, and what topic was so they actually talk about trauma, and as we know, people with substance use disorder mostly they have some traumatic episode in their life. And it's interesting in the results they also talk about this, that some people feel that like they can walk.
Like we realize their trauma.
Yeah. So, and probably this is one of the mechanisms why it can be important and effective in substance use treatment. And yeah, because it's again like people who have traumatizing experience, they usually not like, this is not first thing that they're talking about, right? And probably during these retreats or this like whole atmosphere when you can talk about this. But we also remember that one of the persons who said that I don't like these people. I mean, like, I don't really feel that I have the problem like them, and I feel not really comfortable. So, and this is again the problem with group therapy, when we have a lot of people with different experience, and it's again, it's very important how you to control all of them in your group, how you choose these people in the group, and to make sure that they matched. It's again like the question of for whom it will be more beneficial. Okay, is anyone have any other questions or comments before we go into limitation and conclusion?
I guess, I wanted to point out a couple of things. This is Svetlana, right?
Yeah.
So one of those things is, first of all, it is unclear how they measured the substance use. It is my understanding that they did it only through interviews and self-reports. It's unreliable measure. So also and it worked only for two types of substances. First of all, it's alcohol and cocaine. It didn't work with any other substances. So interesting why. Another thing is, I totally agree with what you were saying, that we're not sure what worked. We don't know what worked. Was it a group effect? They got together. Usually people who are using substances, they're alienated. This is why they're offered to go to a rehab center to work on their stuff, including their ability to interact with other people. So was it the fact that they got together with other people who were supporting them and with other people who were like having the same problems, or was it about something else? Second, exactly those psychosocial interventions. Was it about that? Or third thing is that kind of the use of that substance. Which of those three things worked? And the only thing is, like, we need to really do like a very good clinical trial in order to understand what worked here. Second, another point, if we looked at what changed in terms of changes in psychosocial scales, I don't know, I'm sorry, my internet was really bad, so I couldn't see the whole presentation, but I looked at the article. So, and it says that significantly improved the scores on hope, empowerment, sort of marginally on mindfulness, and quality of life meaning. What didn't change is emotional regulation, quality of life overall, quality of life psychologically. So I do not know. It needs, like, I just skimmed through the article, so I don't know exactly what they say, how they explain that, but inability to effectively regulate their emotions is one of the main issues of substance users. This is why sometimes they use substances to regulate their emotions. And here they report that their emotional regulation didn't change. It's on page, let's see, page 36. So this is so basically they're saying that they're more empowered, feel more hope. So I guess we can suggest that they're maybe sort of some depressive symptoms decreased a little bit. They have better outlook and better meaning of life. So I guess it's more about sort of depression thing, part of their emotional experience. But I'm not, like, it would be interesting to go into more details about did they really change, or was it some sort of like I don't know, some sort of a very sort of cathartic moment that often happen for people who are going into the group interventions, into group therapy, and it would disappear after some time, because this cathartic moment, if people do not work through that, it doesn't really work. Also, I do not know, and maybe the presenter can say, I'm not sure, I couldn't find it, did they continue receiving any sorts of treatment after their retreat? So how did they manage to maintain those changes? Was it just that sort of retreat effect, or they continued receiving any sort of services after that, so, and which maintained that revelation, or whatever they had, whatever experiences they had during this retreat? Does it make sense? I mean,
yeah. Olga, would you like to?
Yes,
answer?
it's clear if they had any treatment after the retreat, but we know that they had treatments before retreat, only this.
Yeah, I think this is, they don't really talk about. I think one of the actually limitation of the study that they not really put some details about the disorder, and they also use the term problematic use, which I think kind of question. I mean, like, it's the question, like, from the start. Like, for example, they don't talk very clear about criteria of inclusion and who was, like, how they, as you said at the beginning, that how you based on self-reporting, they decide, do you have problematic substance use or not. And I'm not really sure this is like still, and they don't really put clear sentence on this. We just find on other paper which was related to this one, when they use one of the scale based on assist, which was which is clear for substance use, problematic use, and for dependence and abuse. But it's still the question, like, how they include the people, like, do they really have some symptoms? And for example, and also I think this is kind of very various population, because some of them, as we know, was have experience of methadone treatment, and some of them have tobacco use disorder. Like, this is kind of very different population, and they don't. And I think one of the limitations that they put everyone on the same same sample size in this study, and it's so, like, for me, it's so questionable why they do this. And also it's not really clear how they follow up with these people, because they say, I think this is good that they use 6 months follow up. I think for catharsis is too long for effect of catharsis. I think. And but it's still not clear how, okay, like, after this, like, noon on 4th day, when they all get out from this retreat, what happened with these people?
We don't know.
But you know what's interesting? If you look at the table 3, it says that at the beginning, 0 people use hallucinogens. At the proportion that has used in the last follow-up, 9.1%. So more people started to use hallucinogens after the retreat. They went from 0 to 9.1.
Yeah.
I mean, opioids didn't change. Inhalants, I mean, they didn't have any amphetamines. I mean, cocaine, they stopped using, supposedly, maybe started using hallucinogens. And only alcohol and cocaine changed. The rest of it really didn't. And I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but again, I think this is not about the study of the, like, because there are so many limitations. It's not
Yes.
of effectiveness and efficacy of the ayahuasca, but like to understand like who probably would be a good target group. And I think this study, like for me, it's more about, okay, in particular in this ethnic group with with some substance use disorder, probably it's have some promising effect, but it's still we need like more like clinical trial, which is done with like golden standard of clinical trial with comparison group and with bigger sample size. I think it's not very like new article which talk about use of psychedelic as a treatment, and I think we should be, as a like scientist, be kind of open to this opportunity, because we have a problem. We don't really have effective treatment for substance use disorder, and we have a couple options, but it still have a lot of limitations. And I think because the population of those who use substances, they're so different, and particularly in this ethnic group, it's one of the option which show promising effect. So yeah,
well, I guess what I was trying to kind of, I mean, apart from other things, but that their procedure at follow-up, and I guess at the beginning then as well, about which people they included, is really, the description of it is really limited in the article. So it's really hard to say then basically what worked.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I mean, maybe those some of the participants, they thought, oh, it's really cool that we had that experience, and we would continue receiving treatments then for substance use. But we don't know whether they continue to receive some sort of substance use treatment afterwards. And because it doesn't, I don't think it says here what they did after the retreat. Like between the follow-ups, did they continue receiving anything? Any I mean, any medication or anything else? Like how we don't know.
Yeah, it was clear that they don't use selective serotonin reuptake medications. So it was clear, and also they don't have any psychosis between retreat and 6-month follow-up. But it's no any other information about do they, for example, continue methadone treatment or not, or do they see some other AA meetings or NA meetings. And it's also, I think, important because probably this retreat can be kind of initial moment for, like, for example, one of the persons said that, okay, like before I go to NA and AA, I don't really understand what they talk when they talk about spirit, and spirit is one of the key concepts in AA meetings, right? And after this retreat, so they probably start to understand what a spirit means and like find it in their lives, and probably it's helped them to go into a meeting and make it more meaningful for them. So it's again like what is the long-term effect, and probably just start for, or maybe some realize that okay, I need like go to psychiatrist probably. So, and this was kind of like catharsis for them, and they go to psychiatrist and take some medications, and so that's why. And we know if people like can treat their comorbid mental health disorders, so it also positively influence on substance use. And I think yeah, go on, please.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting also to look at the table 4 and 5 about whether, I mean, I'm not sure, like I didn't get into table 4, but table 5, whether kind of having 2 or 1 retreats, whether it like, does it have any sort of accumulative effect, whether having more retreats helps more, basically, right? So, and it says in table 5 that kind of no. Because the hope, it's my understanding that it didn't really change much their emotional well-being. Having, I mean, there are 2 scores that are significant only, and table 4, I'm still trying to kind of read what's. I mean, I'm guessing that. It would be interesting to learn about more procedure. Do they to learn about procedure more? Do they explain it in a different article, or?
I think it was we actually have one misunderstanding, and I'm not sure. I'm going to check with our email, but we actually for this journal club we talk about other article. It's qualitative article, and but we also use quantitative for because we're looking for some details about cohort. So that's why probably it was sent you. So we right now talk about the paper which was written by Argento, by Elena Argento.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, that's my bad. Yeah.
But thank you for.
Sorry.
No. I think it's also interesting to say because they.
Oh no, but because it says статья для разбора, там blah blah blah, observational study. Oh, Елена Argento. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the 2013. Sorry. Yeah, that's
No.
Yeah.
It's lovely. You just get some more information.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was kind of confused about what was going on there. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Olga, would you like to continue and to move probably some limitation which you
Yes.
we don't point out? Thank you, Svetlana.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm gonna look through this Argento article then. Okay.
So while the study was limited by its small size and its observational study, preliminary results indicate the need for proper clinical studies to assess the efficacy and safety of ayahuasca-assisted therapy for substance use disorders. And further research should employ mixed methods to elucidate the ways in which ayahuasca and other psychedelic therapies may facilitate enhanced connectedness to improve well-being and to treat substance use disorders. And it's unclear whether people can develop an addiction to DMT or a physical dependence on the drug, but unlike some other hallucinogens, DMT use doesn't seem to cause tolerance. Conclusions. Participants in the qualitative study reported profound and meaningful changes in connection with spirit and nature, connection with self, connection with others, danger of substance use, and both external connection and internal connection are recognized as important facilitators to recovery from addiction. And there are some questions for discussion. Maybe we have discussed already some of them.
Yeah.
So what was the role of the ethnic minority? We have discussed it. And did ayahuasca work for indigenous people because they felt connectedness with nature and spirit? We also discussed it. And is there a future for a psychedelic assisted therapy? How do you think?
Yeah, I think this is probably a future for study of psychedelic assisted therapy than for therapy, because
Yes.
it's too early to make any suggestions in this field. And it's right now, I feel it's just an early stage of discovery, like how it can be used in clinical practice. And I feel this is also a lot of policy barriers, and especially in different countries like in Russia, because usually in Russia we have kind of very abstinence approach in addiction science. And when we say that our goal as doctors who help people with substance use disorder is to make sure that they don't use anything. And I think it's the question about concept of substance use disorder, how we understand it. And I think it's again in the enrollment when we don't have enough evidence of effectiveness and the safety of this treatment, and also if we show that it's effective and safe for use in people with substance use disorder, we also it just raises other questions about policy and how to make sure that we can give this therapy without harm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is future for trials. And I think the other point of I would like to thinking about how to change probably policy to make it more easy for scientists to answer this question, because in Russia addiction is a problem, and we have a lot of substance use disorder, especially alcohol and tobacco and opioids. Yeah, we see some positive trends in like opioid use disorder, but it's still the problematic. And I think it's again this is the a lot of problematic on the policy level, and also on individual one, because we don't have rituals with psychoactive drugs, right? So in our Russian culture, it's not really the case using psychedelic drugs. So and our culture include alcohol, which I think already lead to some negative influence on our health. But it can be interesting. And I know that I actually did a little bit research and find in Instagram a lot of like people who, like Russian people who live around the world and organize this kind of retreat for Russians. And I don't know, I feel that it can be interesting to see also the ethnic effect on the would we see the same results in Russian population? So as a scientist, I'm interested in okay.
Huh, okay.
Svetlana, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sorry. Well, it's interesting that, you know, since I've read the first article that I confused with this one, because the first article had absolutely almost the same title actually, but most of the co-authors authored the previous article, which was done, that one is from 2019 and the previous from 2013. And I'm curious why they decided to go with this article, like since just to describe the narrative, because the previous article had sort of some narratives too, but it had more sort of psychosocial measures. I mean, when the people would fill out scales and stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, it doesn't seem like it clarifies for me what works. Yeah, I guess that's my question. And
yeah. And I think it's also a question for us, right? Like why we choose to present this article rather than the article with tables and numbers.
I mean, I understand it's interesting. I guess, yeah, it's interesting, but it just it seems like you know, this article by Argento should have been first, when first that she describes the narratives, and then they sort of do some sort of more psychometric measures, and then continue with, you know, with clinical trials, and here they go backwards. But yeah.
Thank you. I think this is a great point, and it's, yeah, it's taken. But still, I think that why we choose, like, actually to go with qualitative studies, it's probably because again, it wasn't clinical trial as we usually look on this, and even if it's have like tables and numbers, I still think that this is right now, it's again, like, it's very early stage of examination the effect, and because the psychedelic effect is kind of very unique, and we don't really know, like, biological mechanism of this, and we don't really know what scale should we use to understand how it's work and what changed. And I think that probably actually it's important the experience of people, because it's really not really measurable. We don't really have a scale for measure experience, and I think interview is qualitative study give us this opportunity to learn about possible mechanism of the effect. And for example, from this, like, my take home points, that we definitely need to focus on trauma experience, and probably measure like something like for like trauma experience, and how it's changed, or after, before, measured before retreat and after, to see what is the difference. And I think because trauma is one of the key elements of development of substance use disorder, and it's so common in our population, and I feel that psychedelic drugs can probably, the target of the psychedelic drugs is how to deal with trauma experience. And so that's why I was interested to see how people, like, talk about this, and to talk about, like, you know, the things that come to their mind without any, like, very strict scales, because this is kind of very unique experience, and you really to know what to measure, you need to discover first what is important for people. And I think this is how they should start to, like, from, like, this kind of fishing expedition, to ask people about their experience, to understand what is follow up next. Does it make sense what I say? Not really.
Yeah, but what are their kind of future directions? Do you know? I mean, I did not look into that, but what's the next step for them now?
Olga?
So I say that I think further research should employ mixed methods to elucidate the ways in which ayahuasca may facilitate enhanced connectedness to improve well-being and treat addiction. So that's it.
Yeah. From the paper, it's not really clear what is their further directions on this, and do they plan to do clinical trial, and how. Yeah, I think ayahuasca is one of the like, we know that about psilocybin is we have, like, special organization which like maps which organize a lot of clinical trials with psilocybin, and they use different neuroimaging methods to see the effect of the psychedelic therapy. And I think that with ayahuasca, this is the problem. The problem related to, again, how to distinguish this pharmacological aspect of this ritual from behavior therapy. And I think right now we don't really, I'm not really familiar with any clinical trial of DMT alone. And probably the point of this paper is to see how this ritual as a multi-component intervention works. And I think this is one of the challenges of clinical trials. So I think it's interesting aim for scientists.
It's interesting how they write here that given the limited efficacy of conventional treatments, blah, 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 further research should investigate the role of ayahuasca and other psychedelics-assisted therapies in enhancing connectedness and other key factors that may facilitate sustainable recovery from substance use disorders. So they're talking, it's interesting that they're talking about connectedness, which is more understandable if you read the article that I accidentally talked about at first, because then you understand what they're talking about from that research. But it's interesting how they see that as the main result of using psychedelic drugs, right? Like that's what the key factor that they consider in that therapy.
Yeah. I think this is also kind of because the people with substance use disorder, they they perceived as person who kind of loosen their lives, and they actually lose their connection with other people which are around them, and have no kind of instrument to how to deal with their lives. And probably it's as you also said before that again it can be catharsis effect because they don't really teach them, they don't during this retreat there is nothing about how to develop new behavior pattern, they don't teach them skills how to deal with substance use like craving. And probably it's the point that they are trying to say here, that probably with psychedelic the person return to the state when they can figure out by themselves what is what is the instrument they can use for dealing with substance use craving. And and this is the point that they don't teach them how to as with cognitive behavioral therapy, when we talk about this and trying to give some instruments, some skill. But here they say that it's more about you connect with yourself and you figure out by yourself what is work for you and what is not. So probably this is one of the mechanisms of how it can work. But yeah, and it's also for me, it also was a question is about the clinical aspect of clinical characteristic of this population, because it's, as we know, that cognitive function in the people with substance use disorder is diminished during the substance use, during the chronic use, because psychoactive substances have effect on our brain, and we know that the cognitive function is one of the extremely important target for one of the target for negative substance use effect. And we know that memory is changing, attention and other. And here, it's important to know what is this population, what about their cognitive function before retreat. And as I see, probably it was kind of young population of of people who are using substances, and probably they have not really diminished cognitive impairments. They don't really have cognitive impairments before and after retreat. So it wasn't controlled, which I think important, because how we know what can happen with person with cognitive impairment, right? When we use psychedelics. And for me, it's kind of question like how long these people use substance before the retreat, and what is the effect of the substance use was on their brain functions. And by aiding psychedelic, how we can be sure that we not harm. And if it's younger population, so probably it's okay, but this older one. And they have range, age range, like from young to older. I think like 50 something was the oldest one. So yeah, do they talk about any effect on cognitive functions? I don't think so, right?
About cognitive functions,
Yeah.
I did not notice.
Oh. Okay. Would you like to move next with presentation?
Yes. So what I'm looking at here is what I believe can be validated. There is such a thing as a beneficial use of substances, and I believe that it helps us to understand that there are two sides of everything, including substances. And one of them is this beneficial use. And it is important to understand when substances are helping us and when they are not. And maybe the last slide. Summary. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So there are some sentences, summary. At first, it is necessary to say that people with substance use disorders can benefit significantly from ayahuasca therapy. Additional clinical studies with proper controls are recommended to more thoroughly test the efficacy of ayahuasca-assisted treatment for harmful substance use. And the study found no evidence of harm associated with the administration of ayahuasca in a controlled ceremonial context. That's all.
Yeah, I think we have very interesting discussion, and I still have a lot of questions regarding to psychedelic therapy. And I think this paper have a lot of like problems which we highlighted, and but still I think they have a message, the message that it can be beneficial. We need more research, we need more clinical research on this with the more structured and more controlled design. And I also think that the point that to look on different substance use disorder, because for some it can work better than for others. Any other like final
Questions?
questions or anything? Svetlana, what is like? I would like to ask you to what is your like take home points of this paper? I know that you miss part of this, but still. Oh, Sophia, what is your take home points? I see that Svetlana has some problems with internet, so hopefully he join us soon.
I wanna say a lot of thanks you, Olga and Marina, for proposing of this type of study, because at all it learns us to see maybe at one time both for more critical thoughts about studies, but on the other side, it taught us to be more tolerant for something new. And so, as we know, the main purpose of medicine is help for people. And as we see from this study, ayahuasca retreat, maybe it was not just chemical influence. It was uh, that that ideal combination of cognitive behavioral therapy plus chemical, maybe probably some chemical influence, and at all we can see maybe it's not very evidence based, but these 10 or 11 people that suggested that they feel better after it, and maybe it's quite good result of, just for these 10 people. And so it's good, and it's something that make doctors happy. And so, yes, of course, this trial is a very good example of that how we maybe shouldn't do in when we say about some serious clinical trials, because of a lack of members, because of a lack of data about substances that were used before and after. But at all, it's a very good example just for studying to think more critically, and it's good. And what members do the therapy, I think that of course we have to find something new, and all findings they weren't so easy and so ideal by the from the start, and so maybe we should learn something new about this. And of course it's very, I think it will be difficult to distinguish the influence. No, that's what about I said earlier, but maybe, why no?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Please, if you would like to add something, do. If not, I just probably end our session. And okay, let me know if you would like to say something. You can write me in chat, and while I make some final thoughts. So thank you all to participate, and I would like to, if you like don't feel that you would like to ask questions right now, please email us. So Olga, can you please put
Yes.
the slide with our emails? And also, if you would like to participate in a journal club and to present a paper which is interesting and which are related to substance use, please let me know, because we are always looking for new presenters. And please feel free, just send me email. I think we are here trying to critically looking on the paper and to not really believe the results, and just like to realize what is exactly the researchers find, and is it true or not, or what is the question they actually answer. So I hope that our discussion help you to get some idea how to critically analyze the paper, and hopefully you will read more scientific papers with us or without. And please, I'm really ask you to send us survey answers. After this meeting, you will receive the link on survey. It takes just couple minutes, but please take a look on this and give us your feedback, because it's really important. Yeah, I read everything that you wrote and take this into account when I prepare for next. So it's super important. Please do. And I think that's it. Olga, would you
Yes.
like to say some couple words?
Yes, I'd like say thank you all for your attention. I was very happy to see you, to hear you, to read your names, and I hope it was an interesting article for you.
Okay,
That's it.
great. Okay, thank you, everyone. I will post it on YouTube, so you also receive the link on YouTube. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.